Well, welcome to the Canes Corner podcast. I'm Adam Gold. I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful evening as the Carolina Hurricanes remembered that winning was allowed. Isn't that fantastic? We are brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. You should check them out. I encourage you to do that. If it's for the exterior of your home, windows, roofing, siding, doors, all of that. Aluminumcompany.com. Um, Canes beat the Red Wings 4-1. Game, I think, was won in the first period. Really, the entirety of the first period. Canes got the goals in the first 8 minutes. Stefan Nason, Jordan Martinook doing the honors there. And the Hurricanes getting one goal, 2:46 in, the next goal at 7:50. And that was enough to win the game. But Carolina wasn't great the rest of the period. I thought that Detroit actually had flipped the game on Carolina over the last 5-6 minutes of the period. And from that point, it became, hey, Ante Ranta, can you win us a hockey game? Like I joked on Twitter at @AGoldFan, if you want to follow. I joked that it seems to me like Carolina was trying to make Ante Ranta the first star. Well, in the building, he was the first star. Maybe that was the plan all along. Anyway, Ranta was excellent. I thought Carolina won the game with the 2 goals early and then really put their stamp on this game over the last 5 minutes because it was apparent that Ante Ranta was not going to be beaten, especially early. So Carolina gets out of the first period 2-0. If it's 2-1, and it could have easily been 2-1, if it's 2-1, then you could see the game being a little bit different or playing out a little bit different. Certainly would have been a different feel going to the locker room because the Hurricanes almost made it look too easy the first 8 minutes in building that 2-0 lead. And I think it was pretty easy if you were watching the game. It was easy to go, well, Carolina's, they're just going to cruise here because it did appear. But Ranta was really good the end of the period. So we'll talk about Ante Ranta. Hey, I need to remember to do these things. Hit the subscribe button or the like button or whatever you have to do for this to always give you like notifications that, hey, I don't have to, the drill, right? Just hit the subscribe button. Let's see if we can get over 10 subscribers to this. So Carolina needed a win. They needed to feel good about what they did. I don't think Carolina was awesome tonight. They were a little bit sporadic. There were still some very, very questionable decisions made. Carolina had a power play early in the second period that maybe Carolina could use it to get on a little bit of a power play run and even expand their lead to 3. And then about midway through the power play, which I thought got off to a pretty good start, they got the puck entered into the zone. They set up. They were doing the passing the puck around. And then out of nowhere, Natchez just passed the puck, just gave the puck away in the middle of the zone. And the last minute of that power play was just dreadful. Now, Natchez is not responsible for the rest of the power play, but the pass that was to nobody other than a Red Wing, it just Carolina never got their momentum back in the power play. And then after that, Detroit scored the goal. As it turned out, I think it was Natchez that went off. It was not the same shift. So Natchez went off the ice on a change that, should Carolina have been able to mitigate the damage? Maybe. It's probably the worst moment of the game. Not probably. It was the worst moment of the game for Ranta because I think he wants the goal back. He was deep in his net. He was low, and it was just a lot of room. But anyway, it made it 2-1, and then Carolina snapped back in action. Brent Burns scores the goal. Burns' second goal in as many games. He now has 16 goals, 59 points on the season. That's a record for a Hurricanes defenseman for points in a year. Brent has had a great season. And if you're Carolina, you got to feel pretty good about the way your blue line is held up. And Carolina goes into the postseason with a whole bunch of guys who can do damage from the point. And maybe that's where Carolina is going to have to find some offense. They've done that all year, but it's going to have to continue in the playoffs. They're going to have to get goals from Shea and Burns and Gostisbehere, who is a little bit snake bit of late. By the way, Gostisbehere had a pretty smart play. He actually tried to take a shot at one point, and his stick exploded. And Detroit passed the puck down, and if Gostisbehere wasn't aware, he was going to skate off the ice and go either get a stick or get off for a change. And then he realized, wait, they're just throwing the puck down the ice, and he veered off back and actually beat Detroit down the ice for an icing call. So I liked a lot of what I saw from Shane Gostisbehere tonight. There was one ugly giveaway, and that was the giveaway. Gostisbehere had a giveaway that kind of flipped the script in the first period and got Detroit going. But I thought he and Chatfield were excellent as a pairing tonight. In fact, they were on the ice during that 91-second shift that culminated in the Nason goal. And they were, absolutely critical to keeping the puck inside the offensive end. So I think Gostisbehere has, for the most part, been good. We're starting to see a few more defensive cracks, which we all knew were there. But for the first month of his Hurricanes career, we hadn't seen a ton of. We're starting to see more. That is understandable. That's basically what his DNA has been as a pro for however many years. So I'm not surprised. But for the most part, I think Gostisbehere has been good. And the fact that he can skate means he can play here. So there you go. This is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to spend a ton of time. There will be zero negativity. No negativity today. I believe we all need a cleanse. And I might need an antibiotic. I feel fine though. But no negativity. We're not going to slam anybody. I'm not going to be mad at anybody. I'm not going to wonder if Teuvo Teravainen's ever going to come back. I'm confident that at some point Teravainen will find his game. Didn't happen tonight. I'm confident it'll happen. And maybe it'll happen playing next to Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis. That was a line tonight. It was probably Carolina's least impactful line. I thought Carolina's best line was Kotkaniemi, Nason, and Necas. And for my money, it was because of Kotkaniemi tonight. And I thought Nason was also very good. Nason got one of my 3 stars. Kotkaniemi, he is, honestly, I think he's going to be the replacement for Jordan Staal. I do believe that. I don't think he's ever going to be a number 2 center, but he's a really strong defensive player. He's a big body. He's not a great offensive player. He may never be. He's 23. I'm not above admitting that I was wrong about him. I still don't believe he is what they want him to be, at least at this stage. But I think he's been an effective player for Carolina this year. And I think that's very cool. So good for him. He played well again. He's played pretty well since, I would say, the beginning of February. He really has played well. He now has 42 points on the season. Maybe he can finish it off with some points in Florida. We'll talk about the standings in a second. Penalty kill was excellent tonight. Only had 2 cracks at it, but erased both of them. I don't believe Detroit got a shot on goal on their power play. Remember, the game in Detroit, last month was, I think it was the 30th of March. That game kind of flipped on the power play goal. Remember, the Hurricanes had a 2-1 lead. They gave up the first goal, scored the next two, and it seemingly had the second period in control. Then Nate just takes a silly penalty. And then Brent Burns kind of is in no man's land defensively trying to kill the penalty. And it was a goal. I think it was a Dylan Larkin goal. Dylan Larkin did not play tonight. Detroit didn't have their some of their better players. Dante Fabro also didn't play tonight. So Adam Ernie also has been a Hurricanes killer. Actually had the primary assist on the Jake Wallman goal that won the game with about 4 seconds left in Detroit. Remember that. But 2 for 2 on the power on the penalty kill tonight. Carolina's kill continues to be absolutely outstanding. Part of that has simply been, they changed it and they're trying to become a little bit different. They're trying to not be as pressure centric. I thought there was zone time for Detroit, but no real bits of danger out of the Red Wings. And you could probably save that for them pretty much the entire game. There weren't that many dangerous moments, but the PK continues to be good. Ronta continues to be good. Kokaniemi continues to be good. Jordan Martinook continues to be an impactful player. He did go to the penalty box once. He doesn't want to do that anymore. But he was a very good player tonight. He got the goal. I mean, it really wasn't anything that he did, although he did put the first shot on, actually it was wide of the net or high. He got a shot off from the right wing. But he went to the side of the goal. He made eye contact with, obviously, the devilishly handsome Brady Shea. And Martinook basically had all the time in the world to collect the puck and deposit it into an empty net behind Alex Nedeljkovic. That made it 2-0. But again, I think Martinook just impacts the game positively all the time. The Stahl line was excellent. I would say the Stahl line was the second best line of the night. And Jordan Martinook was a huge part of that. He had the pass to Jesperi Kotkaniemi that would have been truly one of the best goals of the season because the pass was so great, but Kotkaniemi was denied by Alex Nedeljkovic. So again, Martinook continues to play well. And the Florida Panthers didn't do anything tonight except clinch a playoff spot. Right. The Pittsburgh Penguins made it possible for the Florida Panthers to clinch a playoff spot. So by virtue of having the tiebreaker over the Penguins, Pittsburgh, who lost at home to Chicago, when Pittsburgh lost that game, they can no longer pass Florida. So the Panthers are no worse than the first wild card. Now, it is possible the Islanders, with a win tomorrow at home to Montreal, the Islanders can leapfrog Florida. And if that happens, the Panthers will have to win their game on Thursday. I guess they could draw, regulation tie. Then it doesn't matter what happens in overtime to them. I think if they do that, they will also get the wild card one. So, but basically what's going to happen on Thursday is that the Hurricanes are going to go there trying to win a game to win the division, but with the full understanding that it is very possible that they could be playing Florida on Thursday and then as many as 7 times starting early the following week, because it looks more and more likely that Florida is going to end up as the number 1 wild card, unless Carolina goes there and wins in regulation, and that would give wild card 1 to the Islanders, and then the Hurricanes would draw the Islanders. But again, Florida has clinched a playoff spot. The Penguins are at the mercy of the Islanders. If the Islanders get a point, then the Eastern Conference playoff field is set. The Western Conference playoff field is also set right now. Winnipeg is in. Seattle can still get the 3rd seed in the Pacific Division, because the Kings have kind of slowed down a little bit, and Seattle keeps winning. Seattle does have to win in Vegas. Doesn't have to win in Vegas because I think they have a couple of games left. But Seattle is playing in Vegas. It was 1-1 in the first period there. So we could be seeing the Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers play again. Florida's a totally different team than they were, let's say, a month and a half ago. They were steadily getting better, but they were, they have now won, I believe, 7 in a row, but they lost 4 straight before then. So they've still been a little bit of a mixed bag. All right, we'll go get some questions from the chat right here. Feel free to leave some here from Michael. Got to start Ronta on Thursday. No? Well, it all depends if Rod Brind'Amour, he doesn't have to. The Hurricanes can beat the Florida Panthers with Freddie Andersen in net. They can. Not saying they will, but they can. Freddie is capable of winning that game. I will point out, Andersen played really well in both games that the Hurricanes played the Rangers a couple of weeks ago. They won one and they lost one. Freddie played in both. So let's not have it in our brain that Freddie Andersen is incapable. Because I think what happens Thursday is different from what happens next week. See, I think the Hurricanes can play Freddie on Thursday if they want. Hell, I think the Hurricanes can call up Pyotr Kochetkov and play him on Thursday in Florida. I'll go you one further. I think the Hurricanes can throw Yaniv Peretz on the ice. He is the kid who played at Quinnipiac, and they won the national championship on Saturday. He is the goaltender for Rod Brind'Amour's son Skyler's national champion Bobcats squad. And the Hurricanes signed him to a 2-year entry-level contract today. They could play him and beat the Florida Panthers. I saw Eric Cole in the hallway up here on the 5th floor today, and he thinks the kid is great. I don't know. His numbers say he's really good. So good signing, by the way, by Carolina. 23 years old, minor, college free agent. It isn't often that those guys become really good players, but give it a whirl. Doesn't matter. So the answer to your question, Michael, is you don't have to start Ronta on Thursday. You don't. Excuse me. If you want to win the division, you want to throw everything at it, then yeah, you can. But my guess is that we're going to see Freddie on Thursday. I think we will. From Paul, Ronta gives up some soft goals, but he seems to make the timely saves the Canes need. Doesn't he need to be in net for game 1? Also thought that Stefan Noesen played a really impactful game. Agree on all counts. Noesen was one of my 3 stars. I had Noesen, Ronta, Martinook. Burns was reliable. Really thought about Kokoniemi as one of the stars as well. And in retrospect, he probably should have been one of the stars because I thought Kokoniemi really drove that line, but Noesen was really good and he had the goal. I also think Kokoniemi had the empty net goal at 2-point night. Kokoniemi's now 42 points. But I think what Paul said there is the most important thing about Antti Ronta. He did allow a soft goal. And he has, too often this year, allowed a few goals that he wants back. But I believe that Ronta has made more big saves in those games than Freddie has in the games where he has played well. I still think Pyotr Kochetkov gives them their highest end as a goaltender, but I like Ronta more than Freddie, and I've said this before. Ronta was always number 2 on my goaltender ranking behind Kochetkov, but I think your baseline, your floor for Ranta is higher than the floor for Kochetkov. I liked Ranta's movement tonight. I thought he had good explosion side to side. I don't think he drifted. I think the only mistake he made was being too deep in his net on the Robert Hag goal. But otherwise, I liked Ranta's game, and I have liked Ranta's game for the most part. I didn't even hate him the other night. I don't know that any of the goals were his fault in the loss in Buffalo, but I thought he was solid and spectacular when he needed to be tonight. So good for that. Perry says the stall line brought it tonight. Most nights, right? The two best lines were the stall line was the second best line, and the Kokaniemi Nason Natchez line was, I thought, Carolina's most effective line. That was the line that was out on the ice for 90 seconds on the first goal. The stall line had a couple of long shifts tonight. They really did. I think they played very well. From Will, what were the adjustments they made this year to the penalty kill? Do you think that will translate to the playoffs against great power plays? Well, that's the hope. You don't know, but it is the hope. The adjustment was simply going from being 100% blank to the wall pressure and trying to disrupt the other power play. But against cerebral power plays like Boston's, like Tampa's, in Carolina's last two exits, like the Rangers, they have been picked apart. So the Rangers, if you look at the exits for the Hurricanes in the playoffs the last 4 years, it is entirely about the penalty kill not killing enough penalties. That's what it's been about. It hasn't been about Carolina, the inability for Carolina to get the goal. It really hasn't been that. It's the easiest thing to look at, right? Goal. Well, they lost 3-2. Well, they needed to get the third goal. Yeah. But they have been ousted in the playoffs the last 4 years because they gave up too many power play goals. I keep saying it. It bears repeating. The whole point in the postseason is to not lose special teams. You don't have to win it. As long as you don't lose it on special teams, I don't care about the power play if the penalty kill is doing its job. Now, if the penalty kill isn't, you need the power play goals to counteract it. You really don't want to be anything worse than even. I mean, yeah, over a 7-game series, if you're -1 or maybe even -2 on the power play, you might be okay. But that hasn't been the case. So the answer to your question is the penalty kill was made so cerebral power plays would not eat it alive. Carolina is much more reactionary and much more in the middle. They're not flying over to the wall, overloading it, trying to take the puck away from you. They're happy to have you have the puck as long as they keep you to the outside. That's what they are trying to do. What about the Aho line tonight from Perry? Thought good early, but then I don't know. I didn't like the Aho line tonight. I don't think it was awful. They didn't get dominated, but they also didn't dominate. So there was nobody that the Red Wings had out on the ice tonight. Nobody. Because Dylan Larkin did not play. Lucas Raymond has not had the kind of year that he had a year ago. There was nobody the Red Wings put on the ice that should have gotten in Sebastian Aho's way of being an impact player in tonight's game. I thought he was fine. And I'm going to leave it there. I thought he was fine. Sebastian Aho needs to be better than fine. But Carolina had other players who were, I thought, outstanding tonight. Samuel Wallace, who deserves that last roster spot in the lineup between Stastny and Stepan in the playoffs? I have always been team Derek Stepan. Paul Stastny's been a more effective player over the last month and a half, 2 months for Carolina. I think he's better around the goal. So since it's about scoring goals, the only thing that Derek Stepan gives you that Paul Stastny cannot is that Derek Stepan gives you a right-handed face-off guy. They don't have any. They need one, not named Derek Stepan, but that's the only reason I think that Rod Brindamore might lean towards Stepan staying in the lineup with Stastny coming out. So I think there is the possibility that we see that, but I do think Stastny can be a more effective player in other areas, not just faceoffs. I think around the net he can be better than Derek Stepan. I think he can play up. We have already seen it this year where he played in a second line role with, at that point, Andre and Marty, but that's what I think about that. From whatever that says, why do you think Rod set Puljujarvi so much in the third? He didn't play his fourth line all that much in the third period. Puljujarvi was playing on the fourth line tonight. So I think that's just an easy one. And Rod does this anyway. Rod plays 4 lines, and then we get to the third period, and if it's tight, he might forget that the fourth line exists. Again, doesn't really matter if you win, but that's just my read on that. Can we win a playoff series or two if Teuvo Teravainen continues to be a complete non-factor from Josh? Yes. That's probably not the answer you wanted, but I'll go, yes, they can. Will they? Different animal. They can, but it's hard. It's probably unfair to Teuvo to say he's the difference, right? Except that I think he is. He's still not right. Well, I don't know what to me, he looked mediocre today, and I think he probably hurt that line. But Teuvo Teravainen, he unlocks so many doors for Carolina. It's crazy. If he shows up in the playoffs, if we get vintage Teuvo Teravainen, and I get the sense that it is like it's been wishful thinking. We've seen signs from Teuvo. He had the hat trick not that long ago, and we're like, oh, now we're cooking with gas. But if Teuvo does click into gear, Carolina's got a chance, yes. But do they have a chance without him? Sure. It's just going to be really hard because he checks so many boxes for the head coach. All right, let's see. What role does KK have to play in order to make the biggest impact in the playoffs for this team? What he's doing. Be a space eater, win faceoffs. He's been pretty good. Get to the front of the net, create a screen, be a physical presence, be a heavy body, all of that. Do that. Do your job. Don't try to do too much. There is no French pastry, to borrow from the one and only Al McGuire, when it comes to Jesperi Kotkaniemi's role on this team. Just there's nothing. There's nothing fancy about it. It is a north-south game. It can be a heavy game. So you just got to keep doing that. Let's see, from Smokey, Black Aces. Yes, there will be Black Aces. just a comment about black aces. Sure, I love black aces. I prefer the ace of clubs to the ace of spades. It really doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't even know. Yes, we know what black aces are. They are the AHL call-ups. I don't think there's anybody in the AHL that can play. Not when we're getting into the playoffs. There are some bigger bodies down there. It'll be interesting to see who they call up, but they're also, I think, right on the edge of a potential playoff spot in the AHL. So you might not see him anyway for a while. But that's again, just to put a wrap on that, I don't believe there's anybody in the minor leagues that can make an impact at the NHL level. I mean, Jack Drury was the best player there, right? Drury has been nice here. I think he can make an impact going forward, but there's no eye-popping talent coming out of the Chicago Wolves. And I believe we are done except for a quick look at the standings. And again, Hurricanes wrapped up home ice for the first round of the playoffs. If it's against the Rangers, and because Carolina finishes second, so be it. You still get games 1, 2, 5, and 7 here. I know it didn't help you in game 7 last year, but I think we'd all take our chances, right? If I told you tomorrow that the Hurricanes were going to have a 7th game on home ice in the second round of the playoffs, who wouldn't sign up for it, no matter who it was against? So, Hurricanes just trying to stay 1 point ahead of the Devils, going to heading at coming out of Thursday's play. If the Devils, who are in Washington, if they lose, Carolina's set. They don't have to do a thing. Buffalo has been eliminated. The Rangers are resigned to finishing third, and they will play on Thursday. I forget exactly where they play. They play Toronto. They host Toronto on Thursday. What you really need to know about is the wild card. Florida's idle. They next play. They have one more game left. It's against Carolina on Thursday. The Islanders have one more game left. That is tomorrow at home against Montreal. Pittsburgh has one more game left, and that is at Columbus on Thursday. Buffalo, again, has been eliminated. But Florida's already clinched the playoff spot. We just don't know if it's wild card 1 or wild card 2. If Florida, I think, gets a point, if Florida loses in overtime to Carolina, Florida gets wild card 1. If the Panthers lose outright and the Islanders win tomorrow, then the Islanders will be wild card 1. It will be Carolina against the Islanders, and Boston will have to deal with Florida. Pittsburgh is still in it, even though they threw up on their own shoes tonight in a home loss to the Blackhawks. If Pittsburgh wins at Columbus on Thursday, they can still get in with 92 points, but only if the Islanders drop both points tomorrow against Montreal. So Panthers are in, likely wild card 1, unless the Islanders win tomorrow against Montreal. And then Florida can still jump back over the Islanders with a win against Carolina. It's all very complicated. In the West, Colorado and Dallas entered play today tied with 104 points for the Central Division lead. Colorado's got a game in hand. Minnesota was losing to Winnipeg. I'll try to get those scores just in case somebody cares. Winnipeg won, and that means that the Jets are wild card 2. Minnesota, I believe, will end up finishing third in the Central. They'll take on, right now, if I had to guess, I would say it would be Dallas. The Oilers and Avalanche are 1-1 toward the end of the second period. That must be an interesting hockey game. And right now, Edmonton can tie Vegas atop the Pacific Division, but right now, the Golden Knights are beating the Kraken 2-1, and that is early in the second period. That would foil that. The Kraken can still, by the way, finish third in the Pacific Division. So, but the only thing you care about, right now the matchups would be, if we ended today, Carolina and the Panthers would be right now wild card 1 versus Carolina. The Islanders would get the second spot, and they would take on the Boston Bruins. The divisions are going to be, or right now would be Carolina, New Jersey, the Rangers, Boston, Toronto, Tampa, and the wild card we'd get Florida and the Islanders right now would be the wild card. And I think that's ultimately the way it's going to be stand up, because I think the Islanders are just going to beat Montreal tomorrow, and that'll be a wrap. And then it'll be up to Florida to see if they're going to be wild card 1 or wild card 2. And it probably doesn't matter to Florida if they're wild card 1 or wild card 2 in terms of anything. But if you were wild card 2, do you want to play the Boston Bruins? I mean, you're asking to lose. So I know Carolina's played relatively well against the Bruins, but it's playoff Bruins, and that's a different Bruins. So that pretty much does it for us on the Canes Corner podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll do this again on maybe not Thursday, but certainly for games 1 and 2 here at PNC Arena against either the Rangers or one of the wild card teams that I just rambled through. So we're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy and his crew do a great job. You should check them out. So follow the Canes Corner podcast wherever you get it. And here on YouTube, punch that like button in the face. I'm Adam. Thank you very much for spending some time. And we will talk to you Thursday after the Hurricanes wrap up the regular season against Florida, against the Panthers, with something to play for. And I think that might just be good for Carolina. Good night.